Well, hey, Cascade Church, welcome to another Wednesday's Word. And almost happy Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's the big day if you're here in America. So welcome to everyone who's going to be at tables, hopefully talking about gracious things. I know sometimes family conversations lately can be fairly contentious, people fighting about COVID and political issues. Hopefully this year you can focus on gratitude. It's one of the things I love about the book of James. James is full of wisdom, wisdom that just helps us no matter where life is taking you. One of the things I always think about from the book of James is when it says, no one should say today or tomorrow I'm going to do this business and go to that town and make some money. Instead say, if the Lord wills, because we can't do anything without God's help and God's power. So even as we plan Thanksgiving meal, the right attitude is to say, if the Lord wills. If the Lord wills, the turkey will turn out. If the Lord wills, the conversations will go well. We should work toward that, not just let go and let God, but also we should know that we're not ultimately in charge. What James is calling us to is the sense of humility. And that's a theme that's throughout the whole book. Earlier, before he gets into that whole Lord willing thing, he talks about taming our tongue. How the tongue is the most dangerous of all parts of the body. With our hands we kill, with our feet we run, but with our tongues we can destroy people. It says like a bit can control a horse or a rudder controls a ship. The tongue is like a fire that can tear down people. Growing up, there was that old phrase, sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me, or words can never hurt me. And modern psychologists have changed that to say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can wound me deeply. I remember far more some of the cutting words that have been said to me compared to some of the punches I've taken from bullies. Been literally punched and kicked and shoved and nose broken and glasses broken and concussions from bullies. I'd keep all that and pass on some of the words that have stuck deep in me, that have just caused deep things that need to be healed. And you're probably the same way, and James knows that. That's why he's calling us to this humble kindness to say, listen, I can't control my tongue easily. It's hard. And that doesn't give us permission to say, well, then I'm not going to try. Instead, it says, hey, God, I need your help with this. This thing is huge. And then I can't just let words slip. When you're at Thanksgiving, you can't just blow off steam and pick a fight with somebody because let's just provoke the liberals or get your conservative uncle mad. No, your words wound deeply, but they also can worship deeply. James says with the same mouth we bless God. With the same mouth we can encourage others. And so we have to be very careful with our words, especially this time of year if we're going to be around a lot more family. For a lot of us, we've been locked in with COVID. I know some of my own social skills are lacking. I find myself far more introverted and shy than I used to be, just kind of out of those habits. As we step back into community, watch how you talk. Be careful with the words that you have. James also calls us to generosity. He says sometimes we can just use words and not follow it up with action. So someone comes to your door and they're poor and hungry, and you say, well, be well fed, be warm, and you send them on their way. That means nothing. Instead, put your money where your mouth is and say, okay, be well fed and warm. Here's a blanket. Here's a room to stay in. Here's some food. One of the things I love about Cascade Church is our partnership with the Marysville Food Bank, where we're always working to take care of the poor. And that's something our broader denomination does. We have a ministry called World Renew that right now is heading up to the floods in British Columbia, in the Emerson Valley, that whole area. We're putting our money where our mouth is, making sure people are taken care of in the name of God. And so the book of James is wisdom. And there's so much that you can cover there. Just maybe take some time and deal with it slowly. Mark Dever was talking about the book of James, and he compared it to an old Charlie Brown parable, where Charlie Brown said that he came to the realization that life is like an ice cream cone. You just have to lick it one day at a time. Well, if you lick an ice cream cone one day at a time, it's going to melt all over the place. But his point is you can't just gobble the thing down. And life is lived that way. And so we slowly take it in, we slowly deal with it, and then day by day we think about it. We take the book of James and other wisdom from God, and we hold it up to how we're living. And then we see, okay, this is what God's doing. Now that we finished James, we've started moving into 1 Peter. I just did a whole sermon series on 1 Peter, so I'm not going to get into all the details about it, but there's so much good stuff. One of my favorite things about the book is how it anchors our identity in our chosenness from God. That's something that's been a theme for Israel's history, where God, from the very beginning, chose Abraham, chose Moses, chose Israel as a nation. And Peter says to us, people like us, when he was writing this, they were exiles, they were the weak and the poor. And he said, you are a chosen nation, a holy priesthood, a people belonging to God. That's a pretty big deal. And so we can hold on to that. We don't define ourselves. I was talking about this past Sunday in the sermon, by all of our intersectional identities, where we say, hey, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm African American, I'm Dutch, I'm German, whatever it is. Those things will only divide us, and that's what America is trying to do right now. Our common identity, rich or poor, slave or free, black or white, or male, female, attracted to same sex by nature, attracted to the opposite sex by nature, wherever we are, our identity is that we're a chosen people, a people belonging to God. And that's what unites us. And so in all that, take time this weekend as you go into Thanksgiving. Don't get too caught up in Black Friday madness. Focus on family, focus on your faith. One of the hardest parts of being an atheist, this was a C.S. Lewis quote, and he spent most of his early life as an atheist, is feeling grateful and having no one to be grateful for or toward. And so we're not in that predicament. We can come into Thanksgiving, and we're not just saying, thank you, universe, that in your randomness you didn't choose to, turn us into grains of sand right now or whatever. We say, dear Heavenly Father, thank you. You chose us. You created this planet on purpose. You created this time for us to minister in, and you created us to minister at this exact time in history. None of this is a mistake. Thank you very much for the family, for the food, for the friends, and mostly for our faith in Jesus Christ. That's what Thanksgiving's all about. All right, God bless. Have a good one.